The Vauxhall Conference pennant flew on the first day of the season. Champion Stevenage against Halifax. And could the Borough disprove that old adage that trophies are harder to defend than they are to win? They'd brought in new blood, and Mike Bignell, certainly one of the first day hits. He wasn't satisfied with just one, because he also grabbed the distinction of the second goal of the new conference season. A right-footed effort, nothing the Halifax defence could do. 2-0, and the team that had scored all those goals the previous campaign en route to the title showed it was to be business as usual. The second half, a change in ends, and that was the only real difference. Corey Brown, nuisance of himself, Paul Barrowcliff's shot, goalkeeper helpless, 3-0. Stevenage showing the ruthlessness that had made them such worthy champions the season before. They weren't by a long way done with. More than 2,100 had turned up at the Broad Hallway Sunshine, and they enjoyed a real feast. Number 4, a set-piece special from Efe Sodje. Not the first time the man had loitered with intent and scored priceless goals for his club. But even that wasn't the end of the opening day's entertainment. As Halifax wilted, Stevenage cut loose, Venables feeding the ball in. Halifax's clearance rebounded straight into the path of Corey Brown. Number 5. And Brown again was to finish a most impressive opening day performance. The build-up sweet, the ball played in, and Brown passed the helpless keeper with venom. 6 of the best on day 1, and Halifax simply didn't know what had hit them. The home game against Morecambe was another goal feast, but this wasn't entirely one way. Morecambe had always produced difficult matches for Stevenage over the years, and this was to be no exception. Sodje, a week before had been the hero, found himself scoring at the same end, but this time it was an own goal. And Morecambe's charge through the middle suddenly made it 2-0. Stevenage with an apparent mountain to climb. But Paul Fairclough's men had proved they were made of stern stuff, and they were quite well capable of getting themselves out of trouble. And the arrival of Barry Hayles and a penalty was to set them on their way to a famous fight back. However much Morecambe complained to referee and assistant, it made not one iota of difference. Step forward, Kenny Webster. Pick that out of the net. But that was only the first act of a truly gripping fight back. A sense of déjà vu, perhaps, for the Stevenage fans. A Venables corner, this time to the far post. And arriving on the scene, Barry Hayles. The Borough level at 2-2. And the joyous scenes as much about the fight back as about the first goal of the season by the Borough goal machine. It was the signal for a quite astonishing finale. Bignell's cross this time, and that man Hayles, the substitute, his second and Borough's third. How many, hand on heart, would have written the game off at half-time? But even that wasn't to be the end of it. Again, Borough cut loose, and once again the Morecambe defence couldn't cope. A glorious Venables strike. 4-2 to the Borough. with every right to celebrate a fight back that ranks amongst the best. And so to Welling United. Boro began September top of the table. Once again, they had to do it the hard way. There's Gallagher and his defenders inquiring of each other who should have picked him up. Welling in front by 1-0. But in the pouring rain, Stevenage immediately up to gear. Kenny Webster's free kick, and Mike Bignell did the rest. The equaliser, and Boro about to hoist the business as usual flag at a very soggy Broadhall way. And it was Bignell again. Sodje played the long ball through. The goalkeeper could only parry, and Bignell, his second, enough to give Stevenage 3 more points, maintain their perfect start at home, and keep them at the top of the GM Vauxhall Conference. A week later, Bath City were the visitors, and once again it was a case of having to fight very hard for an advantage. Bath had been a side that had only just escaped relegation the previous year. Many people believed with Stevenage in rampant form, this surely was a home banker. Some of the Borough football, an absolute joy to watch once again. This time Bates opening the scoring. For one young man, opportunity knocks. The manager amongst those enjoying it. But it was Bath who got back on level terms, nipping in between Gallagher and Smith, who looked at each other as if to say, yours or mine, Gov. Bath did the celebrating. Another goal was needed. It didn't take too long in coming. In the second half, Neil trebled, breaking down the left, putting the ball across. Corey Brown arriving on the scene just in time. 2-1, Boro in front. 2-1, Boro win. Boro still top of the Vauxhall Conference. The FA Cup against Baldock Town in the second qualifying round should have been, in many people's eyes, an easy victory for Paul Fairclough's men. But how many times has the FA Cup produced more than its share of upsets? And in this context, a local derby added a little bit of extra spice to the proceedings. And it was Gary Crawshaw's goal, but it was only enough to earn Boro a draw and a tricky replay just up the A1 at Norton Road. Baldock's equaliser, when it came, was one of those defensive moments that many people will think haunt them forever. But it did mean that it had to go to Norton Road for a replay before Boro could think about moving a stage further towards their dream of a first-round place and a tilt at league opposition. They remained top of the table when Southport arrived in early October in the Vauxhall Conference. And again, it was Stevenage pushing forward at every opportunity. Corey Brown and Paul Barrowcliff and Gary Crawshaw, who got the goal to open the scoring against the Merseysiders. The autumn sunshine brought the crowd out. Almost 3,000 came to Broadhall Way. But Southport fought hard and fought determinedly and got back on level terms before half-time. Once again, the marking not quite what would be in the Paul Fairclough coaching manual, and Southport able to exploit it to the full. The thing about the Stevenage side is from one setback, they immediately tried to turn it to their advantage. And they did so again. Paul Barrowcliff's glorious run, great pass, 2-1 Stevenage, victory secured by a quality goal from a quality player. a break from Vauxhall Conference action for the annual Jim Thompson Shield, the match that pits the champions against the FA Trophy winners. Stevenage against Macclesfield Town brought 1,800 to Broadhall Way. Sammy McElroy's men, who of course had suffered a similar heartbreak to Paul Fairclough's side in winning the conference, only to be denied on grounds that their stadium was not up to standard. Barry Hayles hit the goal for the Borough. In the end, the victory was to go the way of Macclesfield Town. It needed extra time to do it, but Hayles' performance was again the main talking point. Macclesfield won a corner. Borough brought everybody back, but it wasn't to be enough to stop the equalising goal that was to take the match into extra time. Again, bodies in the box, and through a crowd of them, the ball suddenly passed a despairing figure of Richard Wilmot. There was nothing he could do, and into extra time we went, and the heartbreak for Borough as Macclesfield got the deciding goal. Again, a break down the Macclesfield left. The bounce favoured the visitors. Crossed the box. Wilmot could do nothing. McElroy celebrates, and the Thompson Shield was on its way to Cheshire. Against Gateshead in the Vauxhall Conference on the 23rd of November, Borough had slipped to 5th place in the table, and they needed a decisive victory. They got it, and in some style as well. But the talking point, all about the performance of Carl Adams. Borough, though, had first of all gone a goal behind. Not for the first time during the course of their season. Previous matches at home had seen the home defeat by Woking and only the draw against Hayles in the first round of the FA Cup. But Adams' performance was to change all that and produce the kind of performance that was exactly what the manager wanted. Adams working well in the middle of the box. How about that for starters? Getting the match back on level terms. It continued to be an amazing comeback in the second half, as Gateshead suddenly found themselves spread back by the power of the forward line from Stevenage. Great work again, and arriving on the scene of the crime to make it Neil Treble. He'd arrived as a substitute. He'd given them the lead, but then it was that man Adams once again. Cutting loose, playing the ball down the left, Treble in possession. Hayles off the woodwork, first to react. You've guessed it, that man Adams. This was a morale-boosting win for Borough, just at the time it was needed, because with FA Cup replays, the fixture list was getting more and more crowded by the day. 3-1 was to become 4-1 before the end. Again, Adams dancing through a static-looking Gateshead defence and rounding off a famous afternoon with a hat-trick. Gateshead had been a goal up. In the end, they were well beaten. And so it was a confident Borough that made the journey to Church Road in search of FA Cup glory and unfinished business against conference rivals Hayes. And this was the night that Barry Hayles showed the venom and the pedigree that make him the most feared man First, with a little bit of help from his friends, in this case Catlin, his initial effort and the rebound favouring the Stevenage Borough goal ace, but there was always a suspicion a second was needed. Hayles shot the first time, going agonisingly wide. The Borough fans, watching from the wrong angle, actually thought it had gone in the back of the net. But seconds later, they could celebrate for real. Russell Mira, the Hayes goalkeeper's clearance, came straight back towards him. This time, Hayles was in no mood to miss. Treble, Hayles, 2-0. Book your tickets for the Orient fans. That's where we're going. First, though, there was league business. Home against Dover Athletic, and the need for points Paul Fairclough had made clear. Not for the first time, a visiting team struck first, albeit at the second attempt. But there seemed to be something about the Borough that when they went a goal down, the wounded animal responded in some style. Once again, a blistering second half to which Dover had no answer. The goals this time, though, were spread around. 4 men were to get their name on the score sheet as the afternoon turned sweeter and sweeter. First, stepped forward Neil Catlin on the end of a great cross to tie things up at 1-1. He took his curtain call and then was to play a part in the rest of the afternoon's entertainment for a crowd of just over 2,000. Again, a mistake on the edge of the area. Barry Hayles trying to charge into the box, and just as Dover thought they could clear the danger, back it came again. That man Hayles loitering with intent, not able to get any power in the shot. But what about that? A really splendid strike from Neil Treble. 2-1, and Borough in front. The lights on Broadhall Way were shining brightly as they went forward at every opportunity, and the Dover defence looked more and more accident prone. No, you can't pick the ball up inside the area like that, said the referee. He awarded the free kick, and a moment of absent-mindedness that was to prove oh so costly for Dover Athletic. Yes, old habits may die hard. And the third goal, a splendid effort from Carl Adams, had surely wrapped up the point. But at this stage of the season, Saturday wouldn't have been Saturday without that man Hayles getting on the score sheet. And although he had to wait to be fourth on this occasion, well, they all count, don't they? The comeback complete, the points the Boroughs, and fourth place. As off to Orient they went in search of glory. And it wasn't just a few either. There were thousands of them, all adorned in Stevenage Borough outfits, in front of a crowd of 6,000 plus, and the chance to take on a legendary figure in English football, Peter Shilton. The Borough were forced into their changed strip for the occasion, but the sheer volume and noise of their supporters made it feel almost like Broadhall Way. Leyton Orient knew they were on a hiding to nothing. If there had been any doubt, inside the first minute, that doubt was certainly swept away. It's so important, says Paul Fairclough, we make a good start in the first 10 or 15 minutes. Not even the Borough maestro could have dreamt at the start that his team were going to give him. Long clearance by Des Gallagher. Corey Brown in the net inside 35 seconds. And Stevenage Borough had the lead. The conference champions against the third division side had really got off to a cracking start. Mention, of course, of Hereford. The previous meeting between Boro and a league side, which had ended in such disappointment, acted as an extra motivation this time to ensure they could claim their first scalp. But an equalising goal for Leyton Orient before half-time meant that there was still all to play for. This was not going to be easy for the Boro. Now, exactly what have they got by way of mettle, and what have they got by way of courage? They answered their manager in the most positive style imaginable. Tommy Taylor, the Leyton Orient boss, was to admit afterwards that justice had been done and the right team had won the contest. Neil Catlin settled it with another splendid left-footed effort. And before half-time, the Boro were dreaming of that third-round draw. Brown and Catlin, arm in arm, the two men who'd got on the score sheet. For thousands of people, it was to be a happy night. Peter Shilton was beaten twice. In the end, Shilton almost beaten again, as Barry Hayles just couldn't quite connect with the ball crossed from the left. Leyton Orient inevitably threw the kitchen sink at the Boro in the second half. Some brave goalkeeping by Des Gallagher. And again, the woodwork denied Leyton Orient. Yes, Stevenage rode their luck, but who could say they didn't deserve to? A famous win secured. The supporters in dreamland. As the referee looked at his watch, Orient launched one late assault. Clearance by Sodje. The Boro back four, quite magnificent when they needed to be. The courage, the raw guts, and the victory secured. Leyton Orient 1, Stevenage Borough 2. Yes, a historic afternoon in East London. The draw for Stevenage was against one of the heavy mob, Birmingham City. But that was to be after a Christmas and New Year period, which was so important to the Boro in terms of getting points in their Vauxhall Conference Challenge. Telford United were the visitors to Broadhall Way. And Boro, for once, didn't have to come from a goal down. Playing some splendid football once again. The approach work of a very high order. Gary Crawshaw, Corey Brown went down under the challenge, and the referee said penalty. They complained about the decision. The referee was quite adamant, and the yellow card was shown to a disbelieving Telford keeper, and then to others complaining at the decision. The referee had no doubt, and the opportunity came for Boro to take the lead. Gary Crawshaw, 1-0. Boro were in fourth place in the table. Already it was becoming clear that in the new year their fixture list was going to look, to say the least, busy. So they had to make the most of their home league games. And in the second half, they did just that, adding two more goals, the first from Catlin. Hero at Leyton Orient the week before, and scorer of the important second this Saturday. And inevitably, if there was to be a third Boro goal, there could have been no one more appropriate to score it than Corey Brown. Good work through the middle, Smith coming forward at will, and there was that man Brown to finish off an excellent day's work. What no flag? the views of the Telford defender. Celebration, the view of Stevenage Borough. The perfect pre-Christmas present. 3 points. And so to the big day. St Andrews, Birmingham. The match switched and the biggest crowd to watch the Borough in action in any match. Borough certainly acquitted themselves well. Trevor Francis knew that his men were on a hiding to nothing, and so it proved. But Kevin Francis's first goal, almost the first time Birmingham had threatened, capitalising on just a moment's indecision to put the First Division side in front. There were 15,000 people inside St Andrews. Paul Devlin broke, challenged by Efe Sodje. Penalty, said referee Pearce. Heartbreak for Stevenage Borough. They'd spent long periods encamped in the Birmingham city area, but there was nothing that Efe Sodje could do. The referee ruled it was a penalty. For Borough, the FA Cup dream was about to end. Devlin himself got up. He had to take on Des Gallagher from the spot. Ten paces. Gallagher got a hand to it, but there was nothing he could do. And the second goal was enough to end the dream for Stevenage and their vast army of fans. Old rivals Kidderminster came to Broadhall Way at the end of January, with Borough in third place in the table. It turned out to be a really excellent contest. But the disappointing thing was only a point for Stevenage at the end. Kidderminster took the lead. Many would think against the run of play. Once again, it spurred Stevenage into action. Catlin, direct, 1-1. Everybody looking for everybody else, nobody looking for the original ball. But Kidderminster again came forward, again from a set piece, again a goal. 2-1 in favour of the visitors. But the Borough again had to come from behind, and again they succeeded in doing so. The long ball forward, well worked. Misjudgment by the kiddie keeper. Gift gratefully accepted by Corey Brown. The end of January. The Borough in third place in the table. They'll remember the Hayles match as the day that the rain came down. It was muddy, but 2 goals were enough to see off Hayles. Efe Sodje was credited with the first. It was a muddy scramble, but it was an oh-so-vital goal. But everyone felt a second would be needed, particularly in conditions where mistakes were commonplace. A free kick against the post. Still, that second goal wouldn't come. But as the rain continued to fall in torrents, so Stevenage mustered one last move. Corey Brown saw to the goalkeeper, and Dean Hooper did the rest. The point secure, and never probably for the post-time bards more welcome. The full extent of the Stevenage fixture pile-up was evident by the time Northwich Victoria arrived in March. The Borough found themselves in third place in the table, and it was that man Sodje again who opened the scoring. Man with a great knack for being in the right place at the right time. Again, the thoughts were that Boro would need a second goal, and the second goal came courtesy of Paul Barrowcliff. Northwich stretched at the back, the goalkeeper drawn, down he went. Referee awarded the penalty for the challenge, to the fury of the Northwich keeper, and Barrowcliff from the spot wrapped up a good afternoon's work, although clearly the Northwich keeper didn't think so. A week later, Hednesford Town, and this a real thriller. The Borough taking an early lead, just as they needed to. Gary Crawshaw on the end, but Hednesford came and played relaxed football. Stevenage, were they feeling the pressure of the games they had to play? Hednesford's equaliser had more than an element of luck about it, but when the deflections go your way, you have to make the most of them, and that is exactly what happened. That only spurred Boro to go forward again. Cross from the right this time, and you guessed it, the goal scored this time by Jason Solomon. And so, more pressure. The goals by no means had dried up completely. The advancing Des Gallagher undone by his defence. Hednesford level at 2-2. But within a matter of seconds, more drama. Long ball through the middle. Gary Crawshaw, and the pile-up in the middle results in the penalty. Hednesford furious. Paul Barrowcliff again, for the second Saturday running, had the chance. 3 vital points. 3-2 to the Borough, third place in the table. That title race now a three-way one. And 2 days later, points again up for grabs with the visit of Altrincham. And once again, this was to be a tough assignment for the Borough, as Alty, desperate for points for similar reasons, namely to further their own end, in their case avoiding relegation, found themselves a goal down to a great strike by Gary Crawshaw, who, like Sodje, had shown during the course of the season a great ability for being in the right place at the right time. But back came Altrincham. They knew that relegation was becoming more and more of a possibility. No handball, said the referee. Goal, he said. 1-1. So Boro had to do it all over again. And they succeeded in doing it courtesy of Neil Kaplan, after some great work off the bar, and the return coming in as sweet as you like. Beaver, the man who'd smashed the ball against the woodwork, and Neil Kaplan ready for the afters. 2-1 in favour of Stevenage Borough. There's Gallagher. Eventually penalised in what seemed like a slow motion situation. The Altrincham players surrounding the referee and forcing Des Gallagher to take the early bar. Scenes bordering on the total confusion, and the penalty sent well wide. An eventful Monday night at Broadhall Way. 3 points have gone the way of Stevenage, and there were plenty of talking points for the supporters as well. In the final minutes, Alty came charging forward. They thought they could secure an unlikely one. A mass problem in the centre of the field resulted, and Stevenage Borough found themselves reduced to 9 men with the sending off of Jason Solomon. Somehow they held on to win. The match against Colwyn Bay in the quarter-final of the FA Trophy was perhaps now taking on extra significance. Victory would put the Borough in a semi-final and just one tie away from Wembley. The Welsh side were positive that they could cause a big upset, but they'd reckoned without some of Stevenage's best football on a sun-kissed Saturday afternoon. Somehow the goalkeeper managed to drop the ball, and it would go as an own goal to start them on their way. And not for the first time. A set piece provided the second. Gary Crawshaw's cross, and Mr. Sodje helped himself with a header from a corner. The semi-final beckoned, and it was to be Woking over 2 legs. Before that, the second meeting at Broadhall Way in the season against Macclesfield Town. Borough needed a victory. Macclesfield looking like champions-elect in many people's eyes. But Borough got the perfect start. (1-0) at half-time, and the second goal, when it came, meant many people believed this could still be Stevenage's year. The 2 goal scorers, Catlin and Crawshaw, and it was a case of the Seamen really trying to do the damage. But this match too was to turn very dramatically indeed. Macclesfield suddenly found a way through the Stevenage defence. Des Gallagher couldn't hold the first effort, and Macclesfield had a goal back. That inspired them to play even better football in the final minutes, as the Stevenage defence was cast asunder, and Des Gallagher, adjudged to have brought the man down, found himself with more defending to do from the penalty. 2-2. What had seemed like a great day was suddenly turning sour. The final sting in the tail was yet to come. Again, a set piece, and a goal which, with the benefit of hindsight, could well have settled both clubs' seasons. 5,760 packed Broadhall Way. On the road back to Cheshire, the championship dream was more than just alive. Now, Woking against Stevenage. Mention that, mention a bogey of course, but mention as well some wonderful classic football encounters. More than 5,000 packed Broadhall Way for the latest instalment. The arithmetic's simple. Could Stevenage make home advantage count? They were 1 down from the first leg at Woking, when many people felt they were unlucky to get nothing for their trouble. They forced an early corner, and it went straight into the back of the net. Inside the first minute, the tie level. Barry Hayles, who else? The predator-in-chief. It rocked Woking, but Stevenage found themselves with plenty of defending to do, and the equalising goal looked to have taken Woking to Wembley. Darren Hay from nearby Biggleswade was the man who got the goal. But Stevenage knowing that they had to get another goal to force extra time and, if necessary, a third game at Vicarage Road, found in Gary Crawshaw, the man for the moment. Batty could do nothing. Stevenage in front. Could they at last bury the hoodoo against Jeff Chappell's men? 2-1 after extra time, a third game to come. Before which, though, Farnborough came to visit Broadhall Way, this in the Vauxhall Conference. Again, the order quite simple. We need to get the goals. How much was left in the tired Borough limbs just 3 days after that epic? The answer supplied really by one man, Hayles, twisting and turning and scoring goals of the very highest quality. The perfect start for Borough and the start to lift them to a match they simply had to win. They were almost, even at this stage, in the realms of one mistake and it's all over. Another great run, another good goal by Barry Hayles. Myson, the supply line. Hayles with the killer touch. Farnborough needed to get something back quickly, and they did so, as Borough's defence failed to clear its lines, and Des Gallagher could do nothing. "2-1 was tense. Gallagher's punch was important, and away came Stevenage, and the long chase was won by that man Hayles. He probably needs to get a bigger trophy cabinet. Another match ball bound for the Hayles household. 3-1, or should one say Barry Hayles 3, Farnborough 1. Third place in the table, and then just 48 hours later, Vicarage Road, Watford, and Woking in that do-or-die FA Trophy. For Stevenage, raising those limbs just one more time in search of Wembley. But Clive Walker and an early goal. Disaster time. The last thing they wanted. And the old fox, who'd been the scourge on many previous occasions, had given them the goal that had put them in front. Woking held the upper hand, and Stevenage had to go for broke. In the second half, to their credit, they did so, but once again, it was Walker where it mattered. The second goal surely had settled the issue, but it was the cue for Stevenage to salvage their pride, to fight and to battle. And they did get something for their efforts. Walker came through looking for his second, round Gallagher, but well wide. The appointment with Heartbreak Hotel was delayed for just a few more minutes. A Terry Howard free kick, a catch by Gallagher. Robbie Mitchell now played into the path of treble. Could he find something right at the end? It fell for Watford old boy Jason Solomon, returning to the ground where he started his career, to give the Borough faithful some hope. The crowd of 5,810 could not see another Borough goal. It's hardest of all to lose in a semi-final, and that's how it turned out. And so to one of the most eventful matches of the season against Rushden and Diamonds. The Diamonds, one of the big spenders, had looked in real serious relegation trouble for much of the season. And when Stevenage took the lead, there seemed to be a case that they could get 3 points with that Barry Hayles goal. There was little sign of what was to follow. The Diamonds got themselves back on level terms at 1-1. Stevenage trying to clear their lines, and Carl Alford came charging through, and Des Gallagher had already been sent off for one. This time it was Richard Wilmot's turn. He came charging out of his area, and the referee had no alternative. Under the rules, Richard Wilmot knew that his penalty would be the early bar, and that was the way it turned out to be. The red card for the professional foul, as it's called, and Stevenage's goalkeeper gone. His team 1-0 up, and an unlikely hero was to step into the fray. The goalkeeping jersey was to pass to Jason Solomon. One of his first acts, a fine punch, but Carl Alford doing enough to level things at 1-1. Would the dice finally fall against Stevenage, for whom defeat would have meant the end of the title aspirations? The answer, quite simply, was no. Hackett of the Diamonds was to become the second man during the course of the evening to incur the ultimate sanction from the referee. His tackle adjudged fierce, foul and serious, and he was sent off as well. So at 10-a-side, could Stevenage make home advantage count? Could always rely on one thing: Efe Sodje from set pieces, and sure enough, 2-1, the Borough back in front. Sodje with more headgear than usual, and with a bandage on his left wrist, had put them back in front. And then Mike Myson got on the score sheet to make it 3. Sodje missed it, Myson didn't. And then came one last hurrah. For Myson, it was a rare goal. The same could be said about Ryan Kirby, who'd come into the side and had played well since the end of November. He hadn't found his name on the score sheet. Solomon, though, wanted to make sure he grabbed the headlines with a superb save. For a man who'd grown up alongside Welwyn Garden City's David James, now in goal for Liverpool, it had been a sweet night. But Ryan Kirby's goal was to be the final action. As Borough charged through in the space, Kirby drew the goalkeeper. Thank you very much. 4-1. He had every reason to celebrate. 2 days later, though, a 2-2 draw at Gateshead was virtually the final knell for the Championship dream. Stalybridge provided the last opposition at Broadhall Way during the course of the season, and it also meant that they needed to win their last 3 games and hope for miracles. Michael Myson's defective effort gave them the perfect start. Borough had won 3-0 at Stalybridge in a hard-fought battle earlier in the season, in fact back in February. But Stalybridge had given enough indication that day that they were a tough side. And with Borough's limbs clearly aching as they played their 4th game in 8 days at the end of a long, hard season, an equalising goal came Stalybridge's way when the Borough defence simply couldn't handle the pressure. 1-1 meant the season that had promised and produced so much was to end in disappointment.